Michelle in review. Michelle in review. Michelle in review. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. It's not just any episode, it's a Michelle in review episode. My name's JD. Who's here with me?
Wouldn't it be awkward if it wasn't Michelle for Michelle?
I was just gonna say, man, what a downer that would be. I just would have totally screwed this whole thing up.
It would have been such a disappointment. I know that I have been on 99.9% of our episodes. There was one where I was not because I was not at the event, and it was for that Chicago Film Festival. But I hope that until the end of time, I am at least always present for the Michelle in Review episodes. That's my wish.
That's my wish as well, because if you're not, man, I'm not saying we can't pull it off, but it's going to be a challenge.
I don't know if you could pull it off.
You're probably right.
I'm the best part of Michelle in Review.
I
like sounding super cocky about it.
I'm an illusion.
Yeah, I like to at least pretend that people like me sometimes, and I know they like Michelle in Review, which is crazy. And I'm very happy about that.
Literally our most popular episode every month.
Every month. And I am so proud. So thank you, everyone, for keeping me slightly happier about my existence, but only for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. Let's go home.
Yep. I am home.
Michelle in Review is our monthly episode where we look back on the month that was and mostly marvel at the insane amount of content that Michelle is typically able to consume in any given month. Now, I am suspecting, and nobody's going to be disappointed. I'm guessing, Michelle, that with all of the stress and pressure you've been under, your numbers for the month of April might have been a little off, would you say? Or am I just totally not giving you the credit you deserve?
Actually, April is good. May is probably going to be a little bit
That's
lower.
Fair. Okay, that's fair, yeah. So April turned out to be a pretty decent month. Why don't you give these people a rundown of, like, what your, if this is their first time on a Michelle in Review, like, what a good month is like, and then how you did this month.
Absolutely. So I keep a spreadsheet where everything I watch will get one mark on it, and that counts as one movie, one book, or one season of a TV show or miniseries. We have greatly debated whether each episode should count as additional points, if I should figure out the duration of things. And listen, it's already fucking crazy that I have a spreadsheet where I timestamp and then filter out and check the numbers, and I just don't think I can, because if I see 14 miniseries or seasons on my list like I had for April, that makes me feel good knowing that that could have been a lot of content, and the reason why I didn't have as high of a total number in like movies or something, I could have been focusing on something else, and I just don't want to know if that's true or not. I think for the sake of my sanity, I should probably just continue with the system of one season or miniseries counting as 1 point, even if it's 16 hours of content, including The Pit, which is, I think, like 12 episodes, and that was on the April list, and it's only getting 1 point. Fuck it. I just don't have the energy.
All right. Well, what was the number? Well, what's a good month? What's a good month, Michelle?
A good month would be 60 or above. Back when I started this, it was Spooktober, and I think I had 130, and I have never broken that number. I'm hoping this Spooktober I can really get into it, but I'm kind of a workaholic, and I've gotten back into school, and I also have even more volunteer projects. I signed up for 2 more just in the last week while having a small mental breakdown. So yeah, just not a good choice.
That reminds me, Michelle, as long as we're talking about how still insanely over full your plate is, are we doing anything for CoreCon this year?
We are. I actually just got approved within the last couple of days. We are doing a super spooky, scary movie party, and I was going to message you about a theme, but I'm like 90% taking care of it, and I just need you to show up.
I literally couldn't do this without Michelle, because 95% of the time that's what it is. I just need you to show up, and that is a thing that I can do most of the time.
Perfect. I will message you with my thoughts on a theme, but aside from that, I'll do all the shit. I just want to talk to you about like some movies you think I should or should not include.
Sure.
So yes, that's actually on my list for tomorrow. Slash, I guess technically today it is 12:02 a.m. on the 14th of May. So on today's list, I had to color code my list of priorities because after taking a week off to refresh and get my mind straight, my list is crazy. I love that taking a vacation makes me come back even more stressed. That's a really great part of my life. Anyway, April 2025 recap. A good month is 60 or above. I figure 2 pieces of content every day, that's doable. If I watch 2 movies every day, I stay ahead of the curve. That also allows me, if it's a Saturday and I feel like just saying fuck it, I will be in my basement playing video games, some sort of mindless side quests that don't even require volume. I'm just sitting there grinding over and over and over again to try to get more experience and level up. Then I can have a TV show on the other screen and I can sit there and I can do both, and then I can get ahead of that number 2. There's ways. I've got tactics. I'm very good at multitasking. So for April, barely made it, but we did at 67 total pieces of content. 48 movies, 14 miniseries or seasons of television shows, and 5 books. I have been in a reading mood, and I'm actually pretty happy about the book portion because those always take like at least a couple days to get through, and seeing 5 on there, that makes me really happy. I've been trying to have a lot less electronic time, which is partially why May is going to be a little bit lower too. I'm taking some time and physically reading some books, and it's been really, real nice. So more of those will be coming.
Rad.
I've got some really good horror ones to talk about later in the episode.
Awesome. So, typical segments of the show include movies in the after times, movies in the before times, non-horror, horror news, horror video games, horror books. What all we got today, Michelle?
Yes. So since we are making this episode a little bit later into the month, I am not going to have a list of this month's releases because it is already May 14th. Half of the things I want to see have already come out. And if you really want to see a compilation of every horror or horror adjacent release from 2025 and beyond, you can go to our website, wewatchshudder.com/future or /IMDb. It is our Future Fright section, and I thought IMDb was a really funny way to title it. And it was something like, I don't know, it stands for something I've forgotten. I just did not realize it was still under IMDb, and I think that's funny. But I do have a table where every single movie that is on my radar as horror or horror adjacent is listed there with the writer, the director, the release date, special notes. I'm trying to put if something was a festival release so that you can better see whether it's actually going to be widely accessible. It used to have the country of origin, but that got very complicated, so that's no longer on the website, and I just keep that on my personal list. But if you want to go see like what's coming out, you can check that out. I've also got links to every single movie's IMDb page so that you can very easily go dig in a little bit more. So this month's releases, I'm not going to go through my favorites. Final Destination 6 this upcoming weekend is really the only thing that I give a major fuck about. And aside from that, who cares? I didn't even look at the list. Final Destination 6 comes out on Thursday. I'm seeing it Friday. I'm very, very excited. So, no this month's releases. Go look at the website. Do a little bit of work yourself. News, also just going to sum it all up in May and have a nice longer episode because news is generally like newsletters that I'm on about different festivals or things that I've read on different forums and dug into further. And listen, y'all, I took a week and a half off. I'm tired. I just needed a break from spending a whole Saturday reading articles to prepare for the Michelle in Review. So I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. It will be back next month. It will not be a regular thing that I don't include it. I'm just very, very tired. It's finals week. I'm so exhausted. I'm continuing. I'm working full time. I'm traveling for business. I'm getting my bachelor's and I'm doing volunteer work and I'm just so tired.
Michelle?
So next month. Michelle?
Month.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't owe anybody an apology for any of this.
I owe myself an apology because I am disappointed in me.
Do you mind? I'm not going to go into deep details on them, but can I throw out 2 specific headlines that I saw in the last like 2 or 3 days actually that are awesome bits of news? The first
Make it
one,
worth their time.
Yeah, the first one. So excited because it means we are guaranteed an opportunity to see it and an opportunity to talk about it. It was announced that Shudder has picked up Good Boy. If you're not familiar with Good Boy, it's a haunted house movie told entirely from the perspective of the family dog. And it has been getting rave reviews, and I'm super excited about it. That will be coming to Shudder, I think, late this year. I'm not 100% sure. And the other one literally just announced today. Yellow Veil Pictures once again has picked up the Addams Family's newest film called Mother of Tears. It's going to be, I believe, premiering at Fantasia this year. That's kind of been a relationship that they've had for a while. Their last several films have premiered at Fantasia, and then probably hit streaming, I would guess, sometime early mid next year. But yeah, those are the 2 biggest things that I remember in the news that I'm super excited about.
I am excited about both of those too, especially Good Boy. I've heard so many good things about Good Boy, and I love dogs. I love all animals. I love birds. I love dogs. I love fish. There's a Spotify song called "I Don't Fuck with Snakes," and as much as I love that song, I do like snakes. I like them all.
It's a Spotify song? Like Spotify is a band now and makes its own songs?
No, it's on Spotify. I looked at the icon on I was trying to remember the name of the artist, and I blanked, and my brain went, well, you listen to it on Spotify. Yeah, but I Don't Fuck With Snakes is a great song, and I wish I could remember the name of the artist, but there are clearly not a lot of song titles with that title, so just go look it up. They're non-binary, and they have a lot of really good music, but I Don't Fuck With Snakes is my jam. I played that for like a week straight. Okay, should we get into movies?
I think we should.
Super. Okay, so horror in the after times, aka new horror, aka post-COVID, because I could not figure out how I was going to group these, and I didn't want to be like, well, 2015 and beyond. Nah, post-COVID. Pre-COVID was a different time. We now live in the AC, BC, AD, BC era of COVID and non-COVID. The Woman in the Yard, 2025. This had such a dumb title that I had no interest in prioritizing it. It's a woman in the yard. Like, tell her to leave. Spray her with some water from the garden hose. This seems like something that could be remedied so easily. So I had no interest in watching The Woman in the Yard. But then, I am part of so many horror groups, and a lot of people started posting about how this is incredibly dark, how they needed trigger warnings for it, how it covered subjects that they did not expect. And I went, oh, this movie's really upsetting people. I gotta see it ASAP. And I did. And now I understand it. It's way better than I thought it would be. It is a little bit ridiculous. But I see why a lot of people think that it needs some overt trigger warnings, and how it does get into subjects that are not covered in the trailers at all. There's no way to indicate what this movie is going to be about. And I think it is incredibly dark for something that got a mainstream release.
That's
yes,
a Blumhouse jam, isn't it?
It is. It is, yes. And I thought it just sounded so like there's just a woman in a veil sitting in the yard. Like, okay, I mean, I get that's creepy, but it also takes place during the daytime. And that is something that I appreciate, because I think that things can't be scary in the daytime as easily. You can so clearly just see this woman sitting there. So it just sounded so silly, but I know now why a lot of people got really upset. And I'm not saying that they are right or wrong. I do think that horror is meant to make you uncomfortable, and sometimes I'm one of those where I want to go in and not know anything about it, even if it upsets me greatly. But it's an interesting situation for this one, where it got a mainstream release. They did not want to give away what it's about, and they didn't, and now people are kind of upset about it. But The Woman in the Yard was fascinating. I really, really like the way that it wraps everything up, and the conclusion it arrives at. I did not think I was going to like it, and I'm happy that a lot of people got upset, so I would have a reason to watch it.
No, it's one that I haven't seen yet, but it's definitely been on my radar. Anytime Blumhouse does something, I'm not like A24 or Neon excited. I'll be honest about that, but it's definitely like they've done some impressive things in the last several years that have earned some attention. And so I've definitely been curious to see it. I have not heard anything about it. And so that's very interesting to me to learn that it might be a totally different kind of movie than you might expect from Blumhouse. With so far as trigger warnings and stuff go, I do feel like that's the kind of thing that should be made available to people who want it, right? Like I don't think it's
and doesthedogdie.com does it for them.
Right? Yeah. Who does what for who?
Doesthedogdie.com.
And that covers like all sorts of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but I love it because you can say specifically, I have a trigger when things happen to thumbs, like somebody having a thumb broken or something. I can't do it. And you can look up specifically this movie I'm about to watch. Does it have this trigger? Yes or no? And people will tell you.
Does it also have more thematic things though? Like child abuse, sexual violence,
sexual
that
abuse.
sort of stuff?
Yeah. It has both very specific and also like this movie is violent. And then if you want to dig into it and debate whether you want to watch it, like, does it have animal abuse? Yes or no? They say yes. You can then go into the comments and they'll be like, well, it has this moment 12 minutes in, but that's it.
Yeah. And that to me is the fair trade-off, right? Because you're absolutely right. Horror, it's horror, right? It goes to dark places. It's part of how a lot of us learn to cope with some very dark things, you know? And so I certainly believe that people should be free to go to those places, but I think anybody who wants to go to those places but doesn't want to protect people who might not be safe going there is a little disingenuous, I think, is all that I will say about that.
I completely agree. That's why it drives me a little bit crazy. I like to watch things not knowing stuff about it.
Yeah.
If it's on my list to watch, I'm going to watch it. And there are some streaming services, Netflix being the most aggravating one. I cannot turn off the warnings in the top left that tell me all the things that gave it an R rating, for example. And I'm like, I don't want to know any of this. Like, just like I am fine with people having access to that information. Obviously, I think if something's going to upset you, and you know I cannot watch a movie because it has this thing, like, give them access to do that, but also, like, stop forcing me to see the warnings because now you're telling me things about this movie.
Because what I would also say, as long as we're on the topic, is if you do know there are things like that could put you in that space, it is to a certain extent your responsibility to make sure you're being proactive about at least trying to find out if that's something that you're going into. Obviously, you can't do that if they're not made available to you, but it's a give and take situation, right? Because I know for you've talked about it, how like there are a lot of things about horror that have helped you psychologically, like cope and come to terms with things. There are plenty of things, especially in the last few years of my life, that I started seeing things in horror movies that upset me more than I would have expected them to, and kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I understand the value of it for sure, but always want to keep everybody safe.
And I think trigger warnings are so interesting because there are some things where they're like, no, this definitely needs a trigger warning because it makes me upset. But I have things that will upset me very much, and they're not even covered in horror. For example, Guardians of the Galaxy, if you had put a trigger warning before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, people have been like, what are you talking about? It's a Marvel action film. I sobbed audibly to the point that I almost had to leave the theater because it covered some stuff that I can't handle. And I'm not blaming the movie. Like, if I didn't want to feel that way, I could have looked up ahead of time. But, like, that's a thing where, like, sometimes you're just blindsided by a thing. And I don't blame the movie. That is one of my favorite Marvel movies. But I was so upset that I was like, fuck, I wish I had known that this was going to be in it. But I don't blame them.
Right, yeah, and I think I would hasten to say that once you've been able to cope with it, that experience is probably a part of why it's one of your favorite Marvel movies, because it does hit you. I don't know that I've ever seen such incredible pathos eked out of a single word ever in my entire life. And that's all I'll say about that, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but oh my God.
Yeah. I had to watch it a couple times to be able to handle it. I made myself uncomfortable so that I could be like, okay, because it unlocked some other things and some other thoughts. And I was like, okay, I can knead at this like a tense muscle until I get it worked out a little bit. Yeah. But man, it fucked me up. Okay,
well, it's always fun when we get a chance to sidestep off and do a little chit chat like that.
Me too. That's why I put that one on the list, because I was like, I think this is an interesting thing of like, some people are really mad that they didn't have warnings, but they're available to you. And I think that horror is meant to make you feel uncomfortable. And sometimes that might make you actually feel uncomfortable. I also think that we don't see that as much in mainstream stuff that gets widely released in theaters. So it is kind of like a lesser known concept.
For sure.
Them. But anyway, thought that was interesting.
What else new have you seen?
Yes, next one, switching gears completely, Until Dawn. I love video games. I love video games. I enjoy them. They're fun. They let me escape for a while. I can go be a really cool cyberpunk lady with a bunch of tech installed in my body and can double jump and go take out bad guys by shocking them. I can be a little boy escaping into the basement because my mother heard God and is now going to try to end me, and I can take out all these little monsters and get upgrades in the form of, you know, aborted fetuses who are floating around me. Binding of Isaac is a fucking crazy game. I'm on a kick right now. I can be a little drill and just drill into the earth to go collect gemstones for a while. Sometimes you just gotta escape into a different world, and I love video games. I especially love horror video games. So, Until Dawn, based on a video game. If I did not know that, and did not know that this was going to follow video game logic, I think there's a lot of overly coincidental stuff that I would not have liked, and would have been like, this is so dumb that this line was drawn between these things and that these things happened in the way they did. But since I know it's a video game, it's funny how I can immediately go, yeah, video game logic. Because in the video game, you might just be exploring a house, trying to figure things out, and then you find a video cassette that you put into the VCR, which perfectly explains your situation to a T and answers every question that you have, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I found a note from a doctor telling me about all these experiments, and oh no, what if the experiments escape? And then day 2, you find another note and they're like, oh no, the experiment escaped. Like, that is video game logic. So there were some things I was trying to figure out, like, how the fuck do I feel about this? Video game logic. I'm willing to write it off. Another one that's like that, not horror, but the Uncharted movie, starring Spider-Man, just forgot his name.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. Yes, Tom Holland. Starring Tom Holland. I went into that, and the opening of that fucking movie is so crazy, where basically a bunch of cargo is falling out of a plane, and he's running and leaping from cargo to cargo to get back into the plane. Makes no fucking sense, except video game logic. If I know something's following video game logic, I go, yeah, that's a completely different form of storytelling, and I'm fine with it. There are also some really great kills in Until Dawn, though, that make it worth watching at least once. I feel like the first half, while sitting there watching in the theater, I was like, this might wind up being one of my favorite movies of the year. Unfortunately, it does not stick the landing, so the ending fell flat for me, and because of that I went, oh well, that's kind of a bummer. But the first half, completely hooked, lots of really fun, interesting things, and made me want to go play the game. So Until Dawn,
nice.
It's just a fun, good time, and I highly recommend, especially if you enjoy horror video games and you want to go watch one.
It reminds me when you talk about video game logic in movies, and specifically when you said that if you had gone into this not knowing that it was based on a video game, you might not have enjoyed it. Reminds me specifically, yes, Riley's barking in the background. Mom's dealing with him.
Fine.
It's fine. It reminds me of a Guillermo del Toro movie called Crimson Peak.
Yes.
That I went to because it was a Del Toro movie. So, of course, I went to see it. But that's part of exactly why I personally didn't enjoy that movie, is because that movie is... I sat there watching it, and I'm just like I said to myself, I would not be at all surprised if this was supposed to be a video game at one point and it just got turned into a movie. Because it's very much got that... Oh, a thing happens, so you go to explore the thing, and you find the thing. What is this thing? Where does it go? Oh, later on, you find out where it goes, and now you learn a new thing. And so that, I think because I'm not a big video game person, that sort of story logic tends to be one of my least favorite. But if you say it's got some good kills and stuff in it, I figure, for me anyway, it's probably going to be something just to watch when it hits streaming. But I didn't even know it was based on a video game until you mentioned it right now.
Well, I told you last month that it was based on a video game in Michelle in Review, so that's a lie.
Michelle, no, see, you just because you told me doesn't mean I know.
That's fair. That actually is a very good point.
I've been told a lot of things that I still don't know.
In Until Dawn, there is one part in particular that I know you will watch the kill happen, and then you will yell out, "Oh shit," and laugh a lot. So you need to see it just for that one part. It'll make it worth your while. There's some really, really fun stuff that happens
some big splatter. That's usually where my oh shit and chuckle comes from.
Exactly. You're going to laugh so hard.
Things exploding.
You'll see. Next, The Gorge from 2025. This movie is so fucking cute. And I have realized now that I need more horror romance films. This stars Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. And they are, one of them, Miles Teller, is from America. And Anya is from, I believe, Russia, someplace European. And they are special ops agents on two separate sides of a gorge. They don't know where they're located, but they know that there are these creatures in the gorge, and their job is to just make sure that they don't come out. They need to keep them down in there. And they start having this conversation by, using binoculars and holding up signs, because they are the only people here and nobody knows where they are, and they begin this relationship, and it is so fucking cute. Between this and Hard Eyes, I'm realizing I have a massive craving for just a really dark romantic film based around monsters or death or something. Like I thought it was so fucking cute. So The Gorge, it is on Apple TV. It is an Apple original, and it's worth watching if you have Apple, or get a free trial for a week and go check it out. I thought it was so fucking cute.
I was going to ask you where it was released, because this is literally the moment one. Look, I get it. You've probably already told me about it.
I have not told you about this. You're okay. You can get off this once.
Yeah, fair enough. Ugh, 2 hours and 9 minutes though, Michelle.
Yeah, but it's directed by Scott Derrickson.
Who?
Doctor Strange, Black Phone. Some VHS, Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Anything that I've enjoyed?
Do you not like Black Phone?
No.
Really?
We've talked about this. No, that movie didn't work for me at all.
Well, I guess now I'm in the situation of you've told me something and I did not know it. I like Scott Derrickson's stuff. I think he did my favorite VHS 85 segment, that Dream Kill one that we won't get into, but it's the VHS tapes that reveal some stuff. Very much like Sinister. Oh yeah, duh, he made Sinister too. I should have started with that one, which I fucking
I
love,
see that. I'm doing a little bit of research here because like it was a name that I knew I should recognize for some reason. Oh, so okay, he also was executive producer on the TV series, the Snowpiercer TV series. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I watched the first season of that. I never saw any of the rest of it. I liked it mostly because Jennifer Connelly is the most beautiful woman who's ever existed in the history of the world. But
she's up there.
Yeah, she's also insanely talented, but yeah, it's okay. Anyway, Scott Derrickson,
Scott Derrickson. So the
Black
Gorge,
Phone.
very fucking cute.
I'm probably the only person in the world who found the Black Phone as lackluster as I did.
There's one major flaw with it, but if I forgive that moment, I love the Black Phone. They're coming out with a sequel, though, and we're gonna see how that goes. But also, Ethan Hawke can do no wrong, so he's a big part of why I like it.
I was just gonna say, is that one major flaw Ethan Hawke?
Moving on.
Not for reals, just because that's the reaction I expected I would get.
Fair. I do like to roast
He's
with
fine.
Last thing in the horror in the after times that I'm going to cover, Death of a Unicorn, starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. It is a comedy about a father and daughter with a weird relationship who go to hang out with this billionaire guy, and they kill a unicorn. And then some stuff happens as a result. I wanted to like this so bad. I did not hate it. Here is exactly what is wrong. I hate the design of the unicorn. It is completely CGI, and I did not like it. And it completely made it impossible for me to like the movie. And that sucks. If they had even done like a little bit of practical effects and then enhanced it, I think that could have been a major, completely different experience for me. But it is 100% CGI, and I don't like the way it looks. And that sucks. Because I wanted to like this. I think it has a lot of funny moments. It has Will Poulter, who's one of those where anytime I see him in anything I'm excited about, he's
funny. Hilarious. He's so good.
He's so funny. And Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, obviously.
Yeah. I enjoyed it mostly for the cast and their performances. Really, really well done. The part of it that didn't work for me is the stuff with like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but like the stuff with the mom, and especially the stuff with the mom in the third act, and those that side of things, I thought got a little kind of saccharine, and I wish it would have maybe avoided a little, or at least not done that with quite so what felt to me like such a heavy hand. But yeah, liked it, didn't love it.
Yep. Okay, before I go on to
look, I'll watch Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega and Will. What I love about Will Poulter is so good at so many different kinds of funny, right? You know, because he's the asshole. What's his name? Mark in Midsommar. But then he's the goofy fucking like total dumbass weirdo in this movie, and then he's like when he's Adam Warlock in the Marvel movie. He's just I love that guy. He's real fucking talented.
He was in Midsommar?
Yeah, he's the guy who pees on the tree.
Oh my god, I completely forgot he was in that. I always think of the boyfriend.
The guy who wants to go to Sweden to get laid. Yeah.
Yep.
That's Will
Poulter.
Poulter.
Wow, I completely forgot that. Yeah, I love him. He's so like versatile, whatever, that it's really hard to forget that he's been in so many fucking movies. The first time I saw him was Maze Runner. He plays Gally, and that's kind of silly to me.
What's a Maze Runner?
I have talked about Maze Runner a lot on this show because I was just rereading the series last year.
Well,
There's a maze, and they got to run through it.
Now everybody knows how much I pay attention. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot.
You have so much stuff that you talk about, Michelle, because your volume of consumption is so massive. Please don't judge me for not being able to remember everything. You know who else is in Midsommar?
Florence Pugh.
Chidi Anagonye.
Give me a second.
Real name William Jackson Harper, but Chidi Anagonye.
William Jack.
The Good Place.
Yes, I was like, I know this fucking name. I had to go to the actual IMDb page. Duh. Okay, yeah, Chidi. Okay.
Yeah,
I got you. I remember.
Side note, by the way, not to completely throw everything off. If you have never seen The Good Place, holy shit! I
think about that a lot.
I as a general rule do not like sitcoms at all. Like they're just not my style of. Oh yeah, they're too long. Shut up. But that show, they do have way too many episodes. Is that what you meant by they're too long?
Yes.
Okay.
I can watch 4 movies in the same amount of time it takes me to watch one season.
Yeah, so I thought you were talking about each episode, and I'm like, what are you talking about? They're 22 minutes.
I think they're I was going to say they're like 20, 30 minutes.
This show, 4 seasons. It's probably still a few more episodes than it needs to be. There are definitely a couple of filler guys in there, but it was a network TV show. And so, oh no, they only did 13 episode seasons. That explains why I don't remember anything it's a phenomenal show. Incredibly hilarious, fabulous cast across the board, and by the time we got to the last episode, I wept it does that thing that the few sitcoms that I really do enjoy do, which is by the end of it, you're so caught up in it that you don't realize you actually have a serious emotional bond with these characters, and then everything is just, it's all sad but also happy and beautiful. The Good Place, go watch it.
It is a real good place.
It's so good.
Yeah. Without getting into it, that one episode where they're trying to figure out how somebody can be considered a good person and somebody who tries to live that life and what it actually turns out is happening, I think about that all the fucking time.
There should be a medium place.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so horror in the before times, aka older horror, aka pre-COVID.
Can I mention a couple of things real quick?
God, no.
From in the after times?
Yeah, go for it.
Saw a pair of movies that I believe came out in 2023 or 2024. They're called The Third Saturday in October Part 5 and The Third Saturday in October. Now, The Third Saturday in October Part 5 came first. And the gimmick behind it is that it's the 5th entry in a slasher franchise. And then the Third Saturday in October is then like, oh, this is the thought lost horror movie that became, because in the beginning of Part 5 there's this whole thing where like, oh, it became this franchise that had semi popularity, but the original film was lost, never to be seen again, which is kind of silly in a lot of ways. But anyway. I enjoyed The Third Saturday in October, the second film, significantly more than I enjoyed Third Saturday in October Part 5. But in a weird way, I feel like at least a certain amount of my enjoyment of The Third Saturday in October was somehow rooted in seeing that first one, The Third Saturday in October Part 5. So while I personally enjoyed the second/first one more, I do think if you're going to watch them, it's worthwhile to watch them both and watch them in the order they were intended, which is Part 5 and then Part 1.
I've had both of those on my list for a very long time just because I like the concept of Part 5 being the first one. Yeah. I just think that's real fun.
Yeah. Also saw a fun little movie called The Yorkie Werewolf, which should be self-explanatory from the title. It's goofy and fun and splattery, and I strongly recommend you check it out. And I also finally saw Companion, which I really enjoyed. Bloodier than I expected, stranger than I expected. It was not the movie that I thought it was going to be, but I had a good time with it.
Did you watch The Yorkie Werewolf on Tubi?
I believe so, but it's either on Tubi or on Amazon.
Okay. I saw it was on Tubi, and I know how much you like weird Tubi stuff, so I immediately went to the IMDb page because I was like, the Yorkie werewolf turned into a tiny werewolf. Yeah, that sounds kind of fun.
It's hilarious and ridiculous because I don't want to give away too much, but it involves werewolves and witches and the mafia. It's absurd and so funny, and like a lot of people are not gonna like it, but it was definitely for me, especially for a guy who owns a small dog who's actually half Yorkie and is a living terror. This was especially fun.
Yep. I have a Lhasa Apso Bichon Frise.
A Bichon Frise werewolf would be the best.
Exactly. I'm like, when we got her, she's a rescue. She's not, she just happens to be a specific breed, but I had to figure out how the fuck to spell what breed she is, because those are both, like, I had no idea. Lhasa Apso Bichon Frise. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to learn French. So I just call her my little white dog, little prissy dog. But yeah, she loves rolling around in the mud, so she makes my life difficult. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry. One other thing, I actually don't have anything. I have one movie in the before times, and that's the last thing I have to talk about for the entire episode. But I got to see, because it's going to be part of Dark Day of Horror Film Festival coming up in June, I got to see Rachel Kane's Somnium, which has had a couple of really high-profile, high-success screenings at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival last year, also the Chattanooga Film Festival last year. Just got picked up by Yellow Veil Pictures. They're taking it to the film market at Cannes to try and get some distribution for it. Sort of a sci-fi horror film. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait for everybody to get a chance to see it.
I was keeping Somnium in my May recap because I technically didn't watch it until May started. I'm so fucking happy we got that for the film festival.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah,
we'll talk about it more. Should we maybe? No, we can't do an episode on it. Nobody will have had a chance to see it. Never mind.
Exactly. That's the problem. You and I guess we can talk like normal people without being recorded. But
do we
boring.
have to? Anyway, yeah, so I just have one title. Should I just get my one title in the before times out of the way?
If you wanted to.
Yeah, and then we'll just move on. This is a movie that I've known of for a long time. I just never got around to seeing it. It's a 1979 film called The Driller Killer, made by Abel Ferrara, who he's especially known for making movies set in and around and being very based on like just the mentality of he's a very New York City filmmaker. Driller Killer takes place in New York City. It's somewhat like, it feels like an exploitation film in a lot of ways, but also it's like a crossover, an early crossover of like an art house film with an exploitation film in a lot of ways. I enjoyed it. It's an interesting look at what was going on in this kind of cinema in the late 70s. I would say if you're typically okay with 1970s type horror films, you probably enjoy it. If 1970s stuff is like, if that era of horror films is not the most interesting to you, again, there's definitely some gore and blood in it, but it's not super severe. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out. The guy, he's got a power drill, and then he gets this like portable battery pack that he wears around his chest like a bandolier, and he just goes to town.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I have a 0 interest in seeing.
Come on, not even just based on the name Driller Killer?
No, I don't like slashers, and when I went to the IMDb page, the first genre is B horror. Fuck that.
Yeah, I can tell you for sure it's not a movie that would be in your wheelhouse of interest, for sure.
No, definitely not.
But I enjoyed it.
But other people out there, you might like it.
Yeah.
If your taste is bad.
Oh, I will. Okay. All right, well, and that's
You had a good one. You had a good one earlier.
That's it for JD. It's take it away, Michelle. Tell us all about explain to people what the before times is.
Yeah, horror in the before times. Older horror, pre-COVID. I figure anything 2020 and earlier, roughly, because I I just didn't want to set like a specific year. Some stuff feels newer. Some things don't. Like COVID's such an ambiguous time because it's technically still out there. So it's like before COVID, things were completely different than after COVID. So fuck it. That's how my life is being divided now. So, before times. I rewatched a movie that I really, really, really enjoy. And then I rewatched a second movie that I really, really enjoy because they have kind of similar veins to them. So the one that I watched first because I was just craving it was They Look Like People from 2015. It makes you question everything, and I'm still not 100% positive that I know what the truth of the situation actually is. It's a man who thinks that he's being communicated with, and that there are things that look like people but are not people. So you are spending the entire movie while he is with his friend who he's temporarily living with, trying to figure out, like, is this guy insane, or is this the thing that he needs to save people from? And I love it. I am sad that this is from 2015 and I rarely hear about it because I think it's still fairly modern. I need more people to watch this movie. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now, and I always really enjoy it. There's a lot of the camera work's great, the acting's great, the actual story behind it all is really well done, and it's a very spooky movie. So love that fucking film.
It's a movie that I've seen. I've seen definitely like the promo image typically is like a person's face, maybe almost like screaming or something, but it's very very dark, like it's barely lit up. Yeah. Somebody on Facebook forever ago mentioned it, and I added it to a view list, and somehow I've just still never, well, not somehow, it's just because that's how it's going to work. You can't see everything, no matter how hard you try, Michelle. It's,
but it's not working.
I haven't seen it yet, but that's definitely going to bump it up on my priority list. I have that one and The Gorge on my priority list right now from this episode.
They Look Like People is on Tubi, and it has a runtime of 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, shit. I might watch that tonight.
Yep. It's a very quick movie, and I love it. I want to go rewatch it again right away. But after just randomly deciding to rewatch They Look Like People, I did need to go rewatch one of my quote-unquote favorite apocalypse movies. Not really apocalypse movie. It's interesting. Take Shelter from 2011, starring Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain. It's a very similar thing where Michael Shannon's character is getting these visions of a gigantic storm that is coming, and there's rain that smells like battery acid, and people start changing, and he's getting these constant visions, and he's trying to figure out if he has to do something to prepare for it, or is he going crazy? Yes. This one, at least, I think that they solidly tell you by the end, like, here's how you should feel about everything that has happened, and they wrap it up nicely. Unlike They Look Like People, where I feel like it's kind of ambiguous, but that's my favorite thing about it. But Michael Shannon is great, even though I think this is more of a drama than a scary horror or thriller or anything like that. There are parts that genuinely are so eerie that they actually scare me. One of the it's just a dream that Michael Shannon is having, and it's about his wife if these events go down that way, and it's a very quiet, very still scene where very little happens, and it scared the fuck out of me.
What's that movie called?
Take Shelter.
Take Shelter. Cool. Now that one's on my list too.
Cool. It's 2 hours, so I'm sorry about that.
So that one's not on my list anymore.
Yep, I kind of figured. But it's one of my favorite apocalypse/not apocalypse movies because it's just this guy seeing visions of a thing, and you don't actually see a lot of what happens, but it's scary. and I never get enough of it. I've seen it several times now. I actually think the first time I watched it was probably last year, and I covered it on a Michelle in Review back then. And I've rewatched it, I think, twice more since then. I love Take Shelter. It's insanity, but in the best kind of way.
Cool.
Speaking of insanity, I'd only seen it once, ages and ages and ages ago, so I rewatched Cannibal Holocaust from 1980.
Why?
Because I'd only seen it once many, 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 many years ago.
That should be enough for anybody.
Yeah, I think I'm fine not seeing it again. I know that it's not really animal abuse, it's more just animal death. So I don't love that. All I remembered was the turtle, but there's a lot of other stuff that's real sad about animals. But I am so confused how people thought that this might be a real film. Because the whole thing that happens is that there's an overarching story explaining, like, they're filming the executives talking about, like, how this can't get out into the public because it's too realistic. And, like, the actual story is about not letting the documentary get out. So I don't understand how people thought this.
Well, and... Yeah, and it's baffling that to the extent that it went to trial.
Yeah.
Deodato was charged with potentially murder, had to go to trial, had to bring the actors into the courtroom and prove that they weren't dead. They were just fine. I will say this about Cannibal Holocaust. Frankly, if you didn't have the animal scenes in that movie, I would call it one of the early just classics of extreme horror. There are things involving the native tribes in that movie, the stuff that happens to the documentarians, all that sort of stuff. It's hard to watch. And it's intense, and they did some really impressive things with special effects at a time and with a budget that I found rather surprising. The legendary person on a post thing, which I don't think I'm giving anything away at this point. And then when they explain it to you that it's just sitting on a bicycle seat, and then there's like a whole thing, like an apparatus around your head to make it look like things. When the illusion is broken, anyway. But those sequences with the animals are just, and I agree with you, they're not even some of in a lot of ways, they are, like, they're not tormenting these animals in any way. It seems as if the intent was to kill them as smoothly and easily as possible, but I don't need that. That was a step too far, frankly, in my opinion, just for what I do and don't want to see. I honestly, if somebody made an edit of this film where they just took those, because that's the other thing about it, is those moments have nothing at all to do with the story. They just happen. They're just there for them to be able to say, oh shit, they really killed animals in this movie. It's the definition of exploitation. And I feel like if there was an edit of this film where you just took those out, it would be, I'm not going to say an easier film to enjoy, but I would probably watch it more often.
On the other hand, if they left it in and just had a small scene where they actually cooked and ate the animals so that they were not just killed on camera and then thrown in the trash or like left there. Right. I think I would accept it a lot more too, because I'm a meat
if it had been,
and I have guilt about it.
Yeah, I guess if you could say if it had been presented more in a way of like,
there's a purpose.
Documentary tribal behavior, native behavior at that time, like it was part of something they were, but it's all just throwaway. And the turtle one is the worst by far.
Yeah,
like what?
I'm not gonna fucking reason for that.
I'm not gonna go into any details on that for you. That one, honestly, that more than anything at all. I've only ever seen the movie all the way through once, and I've never watched it all the way through again. I've seen little clips of it here and there, but I never, ever, ever need to see any of that ever again.
Yep, because it doesn't make sense why the turtle had to die. Okay. Speaking of extreme horror, I think I might have heard about this one from you, and maybe you've watched it. It's only 10 minutes, but I had to put it in my list. Un Chien Andalou?
Oh, yeah, Un Chien Andalou. Yeah, it's legendary Salvador Dali film.
Yes, I think you posted in a group chat or something ages ago, and I put it on my YouTube watch later and finally went back to watch it. For those of you who don't know, this was considered hardcore for the 1920s.
It was.
Yeah, it's written by Luis Buñuel.
Buñuel. Yep, Luis Buñuel, directed by Salvador Dali.
Yeah, Salvador Dali, based on dreams that each of them had. And it's a 10-minute thing on YouTube. It's a silent film. There's just stuff happening in black and white, and then there's some music over it that does not match the music. Watch it on mute, put some other music behind it. But it's intense for the 1920s. This would have been intense for the 1950s. Certain things would have still been intense for the 1980s. I was blown away by how wild this actually was.
Yeah, and legitimate special effects things that are still done to this day. Like they harvested certain body parts from a butcher shop. So again, the animals are already dead. They're being, they're parts of them that would have been, I don't want to give away too much, but they actually do things on film that you would never have expected somebody to do in at least for me. Like, I think we all have this idea of the real olden days as a little bit more innocent and tame than they might necessarily have been, and maybe that's just the portrait that's been painted of them over the years. But by the way, do you know what Un Chien Andalou means?
I don't.
It means an Andalusian dog.
What's an Andalusian dog?
It's a dog from Andalusia.
Okay, why is it named that?
Because Dali and Buñuel. The whole idea behind it is it was their attempt to represent in film. It's one of the earliest examples of film dream logic. That was what they were trying to do, was to an extent replicate the experience of having a dream, having a nightmare. And that's why it's very sort of choppy. There are some themes that run through it, but they're not necessarily 100% consistent. There are some more isolated things. In a lot of ways, if you've ever seen The Ring, it is almost like a real-life version of the film, the video in The Ring that they watch.
True.
Yeah.
That's pretty good way to put it.
And to the extent that I feel like that video in The Ring is deliberately somewhat inspired by Un Chien Andalou. You can see it everywhere. It's all over YouTube. It's a public domain thing. Try to find the best version of it you can, but yeah, this shit's wild.
Yeah, after watching it, I went, what the fuck did I just watch? And so I went to Wikipedia to start. Wikipedia is a great place to start and then find links so that you can go read other stuff. But I just took this quote straight from Wikipedia. According to Buñuel, they adhered to a simple rule. Do not dwell on what required purely rational, psychological, or cultural explanations. Open the way to the irrational. Yeah. They did that. When I saw that Dali was involved, I went, oh, because I could not remember. I just remembered you posting the link someplace, and I added it to my list, and I forgot an explanation. And I went, oh, Salvador Dali. I get it now.
I would also hasten to point out that, to me, this is a perfect example, or at least for my taste, this is as long as I want. If your movie is going to be 100% start to finish dream logic, this is about as long as I want it to be. Like 10 minutes is a good length. You get your concept out there, you hit your moments, you embody what you're saying, and then you get out. If this went on for like an hour and a half, this would have been like a Skinamarink experience for me, but
yes, that is actually also a very, very good way to put it.
Because, I appreciate experimental cinema a lot more when it doesn't ask me for a lot of my time.
Yeah. I went to a museum over the course of the last week when I was in Las Vegas, and it had a lot of Salvador Dali artwork. But it was all his line drawings of like women peeing on men and that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering why they didn't teach us that part in high school, because I had no idea he did that style, and I would have cared a lot fucking more about art. So, that's what I have to say. Salvador Dali was real weirdo, real cool guy.
Yeah, I don't. Sorry, I'm not dying. I'm not dying. I just didn't time things well. No, if you're not familiar with, have you ever seen Jodorowsky's Dune, the documentary about when Alejandro Jodorowsky was gonna make Dune as a film?
I absolutely have. I love that documentary.
It's wild, but like the whole story about how, I don't remember the exact numbers, but he was trying to get Salvador Dali to come in and play one of the characters. And Dali was like, I'll do it, but I'm only coming in for like what was it, like $100,000 an hour or something like that is what he wanted to be paid. And it was this enormous part. And so Jodorowsky just chopped it down so that they'd be able to do it all in one day and only pay him once. And then it never happened, man. It is wild to me, like, you watch that documentary, now again, another tangent here, too, and you understand entirely why he lost the project and it never happened.
Yeah.
But also...
immediately over his budget. It's for art.
Right. But also, man, when they start going through that book where it has all the old concept art and everything... It's really hard to argue that there's not a lot of stuff there that got lifted for a ton of other things not terribly long after. Like so many designs and ideas. Not necessarily stories, but like visual ideas. Anyway, that's go watch Jodorowsky's Dune if you've never seen it. And if you don't know Jodorowsky, get your shit together.
I think they said his movie would have been 7 hours long or something like that.
Yeah, like
too.
13 hours at one point. Yeah. Like, it just ballooned to an insane... And his argument was the movie will be as long as it needs to be.
Yep.
Like, well...
God, great documentary. Yeah. You don't even have to know anything about Dune or Jodorowsky or anybody. It's great. It's insane.
I think the best thing for me about watching it is, so I was aware of Jodo before I ever saw it, and I knew his movies, but all I knew was his movies and, like, interviews and short articles that I have read. I was not prepared for how delightful and happy that man is. He is such a unique character for somebody who has made just some fucking bleak movies and some really weird movies. It's like Junji Ito. Yeah, he's like just delightful.
Delightfully happy guy.
He's just delightful. Anyway, enough tangent. Continue, please, Michelle. Tell us more about your life.
Yes, I've got 2 more for the before times. One of them, horror adjacent, very loose fitting, but I always want to give this one some more hype every time I rewatch it. Over the Garden Wall from 2014. It is an animated miniseries, just 10, 11-minute episodes, and all of it is on Hulu, so you can watch it basically in the amount of time it would take you to watch a movie. It's about 2 brothers who are lost in the woods and are encountering different characters on their way home. The little brother is very funny, whereas the bigger brother is the straight man voiced by Elijah Wood. And he is the serious one trying to keep them on track. There's some nonsensical songs. There's some creepy people. There's a man walking in the woods with a lamp, and the lamp. It's really ridiculous. Some of the other voices are Melanie Linsky, Christopher Lloyd, John Cleese, and Tim Curry in a single episode. I love Over the Garden Wall. I don't know. Yes, I did say it was animated, but it's a really good story with the right amount of darkness and comedy. And despite being an animated, it's a pretty miniseries to look at. I don't necessarily think it's for kids, but kids could also watch it and not pick up on some of the creepier shit going on in there. It's a really good balance of a lot of different things, and every time I rewatch it, I'm just happy to have done that.
Nice. I've actually seen it on I don't remember what streaming service, but I believe at one point, and it's probably still there, I added it to a a list of things that my mother might possibly be interested in watching because she likes animated stuff, especially like family-oriented animated stuff. And it's good to know that might not necessarily be one that she wants to see.
No, I actually think she might enjoy it because it's not scary. They're in these scary situations.
Yeah, she doesn't take too well to the real creepy sort of stuff. My mom is one of the legendary folks who has never been able to watch The Wizard of Oz since the first time she saw it because of the flying monkeys.
Do not show her this.
Yeah, she gets a little weirded out by that sort of thing, which again is so weird because you can show her just the most violent, bloody, gory, brutal horror movie and she doesn't bat an eye. It's like, and she thinks it's the dumbest thing going. Meanwhile, she's watching Dr. Pimple Popper all day long.
Oh,
but I know, right? Right? But so that sort of stuff, she just doesn't care at all. But you put wings on a monkey, and she can't handle it. And I know that's I don't chuckle to like that's it's just wild to me how fear works, right? Everybody has their own specific things. It's super cool.
Yeah, she should not watch this.
Okay, fair.
Because I was like, it's not really scary, but when you're like, oh, she doesn't like creepy things, I was like, it was very creepy. It's really creepy. It's good. I think it was probably on Adult Swim. It feels like one of those things where it's like tangentially related to.
Let me ask you this, as long as we're on it. I think this would be a helpful gauge for other folks. How would you rate its level of creepiness in comparison to, say, The Nightmare Before Christmas? Or like a Beetlejuice, or like how would you rate its creepiness compared to Tim Burton's more family-oriented stuff?
Oh, that's a good question, because I feel like any of Tim Burton's stuff, if you've just stopped and paused it and looked, whatever scenery you're looking at would be creepy. But yet the stories are kind of wholesome. They're just like about dead people sometimes. So I actually think anything by Burton would be considered creepier than Over the Garden Wall.
Well, then she might be able to handle it. Yeah. It's just all going to depend on the specific details. I think also a big thing about the flying monkeys is for her, she was just very, very young the first time she saw it, and she just never quite been able to get over it, which, believe me, I understand. I was dog shit terrified of Jason Voorhees for way longer than I should have been because I saw Jason Voorhees at a much earlier age than I ever should have.
Part of it too is the flying monkeys were supposed to be creepy and the characters in the movie react in a scared way, whereas Over the Garden Wall, the little brother is so ignorant to any possibility of any little bit of danger. So even if somebody is creepy, he's trying to like be friends with them, and it's very funny. So that's a big part of the selling point, is that the creepy stuff is not treated creepy, but then the older brother Elijah's like, oh my god, we should get out of here, we definitely should, and the little brother's just singing a little song about it, and he's got his little frog friend.
Almost kind of meta creepy.
Everything's A-okay. Yeah, exactly. I like it. I think it's delightful. I like the little story of the brothers and how they got in this predicament. I think it's cute.
Cool. So. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to play out, but there was just a little bit of a glitch in my stream from you. I think it's not going to affect the audio, but we'll find out.
Okay. We'll find out. I kept talking until right before you responded to me, so I did not.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out. You just sort of froze up on my end like you do sometimes.
Yeah, I do freeze up. I do be doing that. Okay, one last thing in horror in the before times. I do-be-do. Do-be-do. Mirror Mask 2005.
Do you Scooby-Dooby-Doo?
While I was frozen, were you taking more of your medicine?
No, it's just getting real late at this point. We're pushing up on 3 hours of recording. Well, 2.5 hours of recording.
Well, maybe you should not be doobie in that, so I can finish up my goddamn before times.
Sorry.
Okay. Mirror Mask 2005. I think it's, oh my god, now you guys, he's so sad, but he's about to take more medicine and he'll get over it. So I think anybody who has not seen Mirror Mask and is just watching it for the first time now, they're probably not going to like it. But I love it. This movie blew my mind when I was a teenager. I just randomly got it into my head the other day of like, I should watch Mirror Mask. And it's not available anywhere. So I just immediately bought it. Only on DVD. They never made a Blu-ray version of it. I think if they did a digital touch-up or remastering of something, this movie could be great. The characters were made by the Jim Henson Company, and they are the highlight. The story's fine. The ending is very underwhelming. It's just kind of like done. But Helena, while she is in this completely separate fantasy world, all of the people and characters she encounters are so fun and also creepy at times, without giving it away. There are two kind of people, stone-like creatures, who one of them is constantly weighed down and the other one is trying to float away, so they just interlock each other so that they're just constantly hovering forever. Like that kind of design. There's these weird birds that can form into a jail and then just putter along with somebody locked in their legs like a little jail. The characters are great, and Mirror Mask is really, really fantastic. And I hope other people have already seen it, because if you watch it now, you're going to be like, wow, that's a lot of really low quality bloom effects. Trying to watch it in HD now, very difficult. I need a remaster, but I love it so much that I did not mind. It has a lot of nostalgia for me because I saw it in high school and I liked it.
That was Mirror Mask.
Yep, Mirror Mask, 2005.
Are we gonna talk about the difficult thing about it?
We absolutely can.
It's a Neil Gaiman property, written by that fella who, man, you know, I gotta be honest, in the history of dudes where, first of all, it never surprises me anymore. Let me be clear about that. It never, ever, ever surprises me anymore. It disappoints me on interesting levels, or on varying levels, but it like probably hit me harder than any of the your heroes turned out to be kind of scumbags. At least the biggest one since Joss Whedon, and what a fucking bummer, because the guy has been responsible for so many amazing things, right? And that's always a hard thing to work around. It's, you know, it's the J.K. Rowling effect, it's the Neil Gaiman effect, it's the Louis C.K. thing. But man, what a bummer, huh?
I was actually never a gigantic Neil Gaiman fan, so to me I was like, oh, another shitty guy. That sucks. I'm not, I never got into his stuff, like his comics work, right? I got into him, like I knew who he was. I knew the Sandman. I was into comics starting in the mid-90s, and you couldn't be a comics fan in the early mid-90s not know who Neil Gaiman was. I got into him through a novel called Neverwhere that, as it turned out, was actually originally a British TV miniseries that he then turned into a novel, and then his 2001 novel American Gods, which I haven't seen the TV series yet because I'm so worried that I'm not it's not gonna affect me the way the novel did. I thought the novel was so incredibly good. Good Omens is really solid as well. It's more his prose and his novel stuff that I've been more connected with, but man, what a fucking, god damn it. Anyway. Yeah. All heroes are nightmare people.
Side note, by the way, I obviously certain exceptions, specifically depending on what the material seems to be about in light of certain discoveries, but I want to make it clear, like, it's a hard thing, right? And I would never be the kind of person who'd be like, oh, like, you still like Harry Potter? What a terrible person. Or you're still, you know, you still look back and, like, you know, with Mirror Mask, right? Like, the work itself and the awful things were both done by the same person, but neither one overrules the other, right? Like you're still allowed to appreciate the good things they did. You just can't ignore the bad things. And I think that's where we all sit.
Yep.
Anyway,
it's like
there's
the
another
Good Place.
sidetrack story.
Yeah, but I mean, it really is like The Good Place, where you sometimes have to take the good and the bad and just acknowledge that they both live simultaneously.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things for people to wrap their heads around, right? Like, it's the most common thing you see, like in serial killer cases. You find out who it is, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's so hard to believe he was so normal," or in like domestic abuse situations, right? Where, somebody, people have this idea that this very nice, charming, kind person must be that all the time. And it's just so hard to reconcile that idea that incredibly powerful and good things and incredibly terrible and bad things can come from the same people. That's so hard to reconcile.
I understand it completely. I don't understand the problem. I'm kidding. Okay. I am ready for some non-horror, and I just crossed 3 things off the list to talk about because I don't feel as passionate about them as I did a month ago, and we're running long. So,
first of all, let me say we can run as long as we need to. I don't think our listeners are going to care if the Michelle in review runs a little long.
I don't know. I get tired. I can't run for very long.
It's up to you. It's 100. That's what I will say is the length of this episode is entirely up to you. I don't care how long it goes.
Excellent. So then I'll just quickly say The Twister Caught in the Storm 2025 is on Netflix. It's about the Joplin, Missouri tornado in 2011. And it fucking blew my mind because the things that can happen during tornadoes are wild.
Is it The Twister : Caught in the Storm?
Yes.
Okay, because for a minute you said it so quickly that all I heard was the Twister caught in the storm, and I'm like, what kind
There's
of
a
fucking...
Twister inside another Twister.
What kind
dog.
of
we heard you like
fucking
Twisters.
Sharknado fucking weirdness. Side note, by the way, I want to make a movie kind of like Sharknado, but it's called Tornado-nado, and it's just a giant tornado made up of a bunch of smaller tornadoes.
Moving on. So
Tornado-nado, it would be hilarious.
Tornado-nado. Oh, God. The next thing, Adolescence, also on Netflix. It is about a 13-year-old who is arrested and accused of stabbing a girl in his class. It's only 4 episodes long. The story's fine. People were really raving about this being mind-blowing storytelling that really changed their mind about all sorts of different things. But on the other hand, the story was fine, but it is a must-watch for the camera work. Out of the 4 episodes, they are basically just one-cut scenes. And the way, when you catch on to what is going on in episode 1, it's incredible that this is just happening in real time and we're hopping between all these different things going on. I think it's worth watching for the camera. The story's fine, but it's only 4 episodes. So check her out. So.
Is that's okay, so that's Adolescence. What else do we have in the not horror?
Well, I was giving it a moment. You usually like to respond. Okay.
Oh, no, well, what's happening right now, Michelle, is you're charging through these to the degree that I'm just like, oh, okay, that sounds, what were we talking about? The Adolescence?
Well, these next 3 I have a lot to say about, so
sounds good.
That's why I charged through. Yes, so... Black Mirror Season 7.
Everybody who's just turning in for the first time is going to be like, Jesus, does he just not pay attention to anything she ever says? And the answer is no, not really.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to what I say. That's why I write them down. I have notes. So Black Mirror Season 7.
So kidding.
No, he's not. He's not. Don't listen to that. Black Mirror Season 7. At the start of the month, this was my favorite TV show. By the end of the month, it was in the number 2 slot. So we're about to talk about my formerly favorite TV show and then what beat it. So Black Mirror season 7. My friend Paris says the best episodes are 1, 3, 5, 6, 4, 2. And then I responded with my order, which I don't remember. But what I do know is that season 7, episode 1, Common People, seems to be undoubtedly people's favorite episode from this season. It is the dark technology, it has a dark side kind of storyline that Black Mirror is best known for. It is exactly what would happen if this thing turned out the way that it is portrayed. So Black Mirror season 7 feels like they're really back to what they used to be so good at. For those of you who might not know, Black Mirror, each episode is just its own thing. Although this one did have a sequel to USS Callister, which was from one of the earlier seasons, and people loved that, so they did a little sequel. And the sequel's fine, but it's basically the dark side of different forms of technology, and very dystopian. And what if like surveillance state is really extreme and they know everything you're doing? What if you can rate people you meet on the street between 1 and 5 stars, and then they have different experiences based on whether people overall like them or not, and how that causes an avalanche of different sorts. Black Mirror is really, it's upsetting, and I love it. Yes, JD.
Can I say just briefly that
Yeah.
when you were talking there, it took a split second, and then it registered to me that you said, and it was when you said on a scale of 1 to 5, but you said you could just rate people that you meet on the street. I thought you said something else entirely. I was like, Jesus, that sounds severe.
What'd you think I said, JD?
I'm not going to say it. Like, maybe you were right about this episode getting a little bit on the long end. In my head, I thought that was going to be a more interesting comment to make. It clearly was not. So, yeah.
Now I just want to sit in the silence for a second. Everybody just sit in the silence. Okay, then Black Mirror got beat out in my favorite show list. I can't help it. And I don't watch a lot of TV shows because they're too fucking long. Like I said, there's other stuff I could be doing. But Severance season 2 aired. I have been waiting to be in the right mindset to go watch Severance. This show has no right to be this goddamn good. I remember the season 1 finale destroying me because all of these different things are revealed, and it's one of the best like season finales I've ever seen in my whole life. And then I was trying to explain to someone what Severance is all about, and I couldn't remember anything except a goat. There's a goat in an office building, and that perfectly sums up this fucking show. So then I went on YouTube and I watched a season 1 recap so that I could prepare for season 2, and I forgot about all of these gigantic things. So then I rewatched all of Severance season 1, blew my fucking mind again. There's stuff that I've seen happen. I still went, oh shit, like when I was watching it. My husband made the mistake of coming downstairs to see how I was doing because I'd been in the family room all day watching Severance season 1, and I told him all about this show that he's never going to watch, and then he got scared and he left, and that was the right choice. And then I watched Severance season 2, and oh my god, I was very scared that they were going to leave it on a huge cliffhanger because season 1 ruined me, which is why I was just waiting for all of season 2 to become available. But I can actually accept where season 2 ends as just the end of the show, if that's what it winds up doing. But I'm pretty sure they got approved for season 3 already. It is, God, I don't even... Severance, for those of you living under a fucking rock, Severance is about this world where...
Rude!
Well, don't live under a fucking rock, Patrick Starr. So Severance is about this severance technology where you can go to work and they will install a little chip in your head so that when you go down the elevator, you consciously become your work self. And then when you go in the elevator to go back home, now you're living your personal life, and they are completely different. When you're at home, you have no idea what you did for work for that day. When you are at work, you have no idea what your personal life is like. These are two completely separate people. And it is a very dark comedy. It's really funny. It's got like, there's an aggressive jazz sequence that's one of my favorite scenes from a TV show ever, and then it somehow got beat out by another aggressive music section that happens in season 2. But they're just trying to figure out, like, what the fuck do we even do outside of work? What do we do inside of work? All they're doing is just clicking numbers and dragging them into different boxes on their computer screen, and sometimes the numbers are scary. And they look at a number 4 and they're like, oh shit, and everyone panics because the number 4 is scary. What the fuck do they even do there? And it's about these people who are like kind of passive about what's been happening to them, and then they decide they no longer want to be passive. They want to go figure out what's life like outside of the office. The only memories they have are inside this office. And they don't want that anymore.
You know, I've heard the name of this show. I've heard people talk about it. I know Adam Scott is in it.
Yes.
What I just discovered is apparently Ben Stiller created this show.
Yes. Yes, he did.
What I've also discovered is that there are 2 seasons and a total of 20 episodes, which comes out to about 12 hours.
Yep.
And I gotta be honest with you, Michelle, I don't know when I'm ever gonna have an extra 12 hours to watch a thing.
You might not have an extra 12 hours, but you might have an extra hour each Saturday.
No, Michelle, I don't think you understand. This is 2025.
Uh-huh.
I cannot watch television one episode at a time, week to week anymore.
Okay, so then do what I do and watch 60 pieces of content every month.
Michelle, I have a cancer mom.
Have you considered that? Wow, playing the cancer mom card. It's not even your cancer.
What a way to say it. I have a cancer mom.
Cancer mom.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm so glad she loves me and understands my sense of humor. We went to Spitfire Grill for Mother's Day. That was pretty good.
Instead of going to Spitfire Grill, you could have sat at home and watched one episode of Severance and gotten takeout.
Are you done?
No. Okay, fine. Don't watch the greatest show I've ever seen. But
I have heard a lot of good things about it. Oh. If I find, I'm so committed right now to this thing I've been doing where I'm trying to watch as many movies for the first time as I can this year. I'm hoping to get up to 150 by the end of the year. And that is really eating up a lot of my watching time, and I don't know. It's definitely on my list. I'm still, like a decade on. At some point, I'm still committed to getting back to watching a sci-fi show called The Expanse, which I'm told
I watched part of that.
Kevin has been on me for literally years to watch it. It says it's one of the best science fiction shows he's seen in his lifetime. So I'm, but yeah, it sucks. Like, I used to be able to, well, also because I just didn't give a shit about anything else and let my life completely fall by the wayside, but I watched all 144 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 24 days at one point. You know, it's like, why the fuck can't I do that anymore? Wow, that got all... I don't
have an answer for you.
That got all depressing.
Do you sleep more? Because that's part of my problem. I've been sleeping a lot.
No, I sleep...
I'm real tired.
Honestly, about the same.
Oh, well, maybe you should sleep less to make up for what you were able to watch when you were younger.
I find it interesting that you think I have any control whatsoever over how much I sleep.
You could get one of those beds that just sit up, and now you're standing up, and you're either awake or you're on the floor.
Are we still talking about movies, Michelle?
Well, I mean, I was just talking about TV shows, so no. Okay. But I do have one more non-horror movie on my list. called Not Just a Goof. It came out on Disney. It is a documentary about one of the greatest movies ever made, a Goofy movie.
You know, I've never seen it.
Holy shit. Holy shit. A Goofy movie is one of my all-time favorite fucking movies.
It's one of those movies that hit just at the right time where I was just old enough that I was like, I'm too cool for that shit anymore. And then I just never got around. I know a lot of people who are very nostalgic for it. Good Burger is another movie that was the same way. It hit just a little later than I was the right age for. And then I finally did see it a couple of years ago, and it's hilarious. But no, I've never seen a Goofy movie.
Oh, man. It came out when I was like 5 or 6. Perfect age to watch it. This documentary actually kind of breaks down why it is such an effectively well-beloved movie. And it's because originally they're like, we're just going to make a movie about Goofy and his son, and we want it to be really goofy, and we want it to just be a longer version of like all these other things that he's been in, and we're going to make it silly. And then somebody was like, how about we have Goofy, but his son's kind of a normal kid, and it's about their relationship and how awkward it is sometimes to be a son to an awkward father and trying to navigate your relationship. And they came up with what wound up being this heart-wrenching, really great, really solid film with some excellent music. God, Powerline's great, but I mean, we also have a lot of other songs. The one about oh god, I can't remember the name of it. I have the beginning lyrics stuck in my head now, and I'm gonna go listen to it after this. But like, we got such an important movie instead of the just silly comedy that they expected, and they thought that it was going to flop, and it kind of did. But then people started saying like how this movie changed a lot of their lives. And a Goofy movie is so fucking great. And I love that there's a documentary called Not Just a Goof. And my favorite part is the Powerline dance scene, of course, at the end at the Powerline concert. And they showed how they actually had like they recorded the people doing the full dance moves, and then they reanimated it to be in the form of this Goofy universe instead. And seeing this side-by-side comparison where they're like, yeah, we had to get a dancer who danced a little bit more like Goofy, so a human's doing the same choreographed moves as everybody else, but just a little looser and a little bit goofier. And then they had to get Max and make sure that Max like was kind of a little bit stiffer. And then the guy who did Powerline was so phenomenal that he got the song right on the very first try, and they went, that's a wrap, great. So a Goofy movie is great, and the documentary made me so nostalgic. And there's also a song at the beginning about a doctor, and it's not part of a Goofy movie at all. It's just like they used to put music before movies started because it was a VHS, and they could put whatever the fuck they wanted, and you would have to watch it. And they have a song that I sing regularly about Dr. Looney's Remedy. It's a great fucking song.
Yeah, I was just old enough, so like I saw a decent amount of Goof Troop in like 92, 93 when it was airing. I was like 11, 12 at that time. In fact, I just turned 12 a couple of days before the first episode of Goof Troop aired. But that's a huge gap at that point between 12, 13, and 15, right? And in just those couple of years, I just didn't care anymore, but I will definitely have to check it out. Like I said, I've heard so many good things about it. It's worth going back and giving it a look.
This would probably be a good one to watch with your mom.
Okay, fair enough. I wouldn't at all be surprised if she's seen it a couple of times. She's seen so much.
And then she better be like, oh shit, I love that movie. And then
probably.
You can watch it again.
Have you seen an extremely Goofy movie?
I have. We don't talk about that one.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. Okay. Literature. Do you have anything for our literature section? Oh,
no, can I
non-horror?
do one for non-horror? Or not non-horror, but TV?
Well, yeah. Is it horror TV or is it non-horror?
No, it's both. It's non-horror and it's TV.
Okay, perfect.
I did. They had the finals. We started talking about it on the last Michelle in Review, but we did get to the big finish, the finals of Food Network Tournament of Champions. Once again, 6 years running, all 4 finalists were females, and so once again, the winner was female, which means now all 6 champions, all 6 years. And finally, she's been at it for so long. She made it into the semifinals, I believe, or maybe even the finals in the first season. Semifinals in the first season. Had been in every season since then. Antonia Lafaso finally won the title. And I was so excited. I love Antonia Lafaso. I would love to go eat at one of her restaurants someday. But I was super stoked. So yeah, now you still got Manit Chauhan with 2 wins. And then you got Brooke Williamson, Antonia Lafaso, Mei Lin, and Tiffany Faison. I just love that, like, it's this thing, this like somewhat high-profile competitive thing, at least in the world that they live in. And not only has every winner been a woman, but every finalist in all 6 years has been a woman. There hasn't been a single male chef who's made it out of the semifinals.
I'm trying to think of something not sarcastic to say about, and all my things are very mean towards men. Just cause the state of the world, I'm feeling snarky.
Am I not allowed to enjoy cooking competitions, Michelle?
That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just trying to think about, like, well, if DEI was still a thing, maybe some men would win, you know? Like,
I see where you're going. I like it.
Yeah. But it would have been better if I hashed it out a little bit first.
Well, of course, I know for, obviously, there's somebody immediately who's like, well, yeah, that's because women belong in the kitchen.
I've definitely made that joke, but I did in a funny way.
Right, because I know you're not serious.
I am never serious. When somebody's like, oh my God, you insulted me. Were you serious? And I'm like, yes, but also it was funny.
Because if I'm not mistaken, Michelle, I believe it's a somewhat known thing that if anybody should be nowhere near a kitchen, it's you.
Fair. I am not a good cook. No. I can't cook. Can't cook worth shit.
Yeah,
make ramen noodles. I might make ramen noodles after this. Is 1:34 a.m. too late for ramen noodles?
Not if we both do it.
Fuck yeah. I'm going to make some ramen
shit.
Oh, shit.
All right, what else do we have to talk about?
Last thing, literature. We're just going to get in depth with 2 different books. As I talked about a little bit in March's Michelle in Review, I've been on this new kick of splatterpunk horror movies. And I just like to put on some relaxing 1930s jazz, burn an eucalyptus tree stress relief candle, and then I read about the most depraved things humans can do to one another. And that is my hashtag self-care.
So you've been reading the Diddy trial transcripts?
Oh, fuck. I made the mistake of reading some little highlights. It's fucking, yeah.
Sorry, that was low-hanging fruit. Tell us, what are you reading, Michelle, that's so disgusting?
Well, I'll tell you. In my search for some extremely extreme horror books, I'm finding that finding extreme horror books is easy. Finding good extreme horror books that I'm happy to have read is definitely a little bit more challenging.
It's just like the movies.
Exactly. For example, I read a book that I absolutely hated that actually kind of started me on this venture, where there's a woman who's kidnapped and she has her labia majora cut off and sewn onto her mouth, so her downstairs lips became her upstairs lips. And it's high on the list of fucked up things you can include in a book, but I hated that book. And part of that's because I really enjoyed the first third or so, but then the torture porn section felt like really low effort in comparison and very unrealistic, so I rolled my eyes at a lot of it, and it was just a huge bummer. I was like, I cared about this lady's backstory, and then you just didn't care anymore, and you started punching her all over the place and vomiting in her mouth and a bunch of other stuff, and like, what the fuck happened to her as a character? I liked her background. However, I have come across now 2 books that I could say that I enjoyed, at least in April. I read Cows in March, and I actually really enjoyed Cows.
I remember Cows. I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, lots of people are not going to like that one at all, but I really did. So there's 2 books that I read in April and really, really enjoyed. First one, They All Died Screaming by Christopher Triana. It's basically 2 different stories woven together. One of the stories is about a group of misfits who are living through a new pandemic where people just start screaming randomly and then they never stop. That's where the They All Died Screaming thing comes from, where once they start screaming, they are now this kind of pseudo-zombie, not a zombie type of character, in that they're mindless and they're just screaming, and with time they do become violent, but they're not like trying to eat humans. It actually kind of feels very similar to The Sadness, in that they just unlock like very depraved portions of themselves, and the entire time they're screaming, and that's very scary to me. And then the other story, also told simultaneously throughout this book, is about a boy who's kidnapped and then gets put to work on his kidnapper's pig farm. I was 100% convinced from the beginning that I knew how the reveal of like how these stories were connected was going to be. I thought I knew it, and I was totally wrong, but in a pleasant way. It was a good surprise where I went like, oh shit, that's the connection. Crazy. And the ending really stuck with me and felt like a lot deeper than these types of books usually are. I'm impressed that a book with the most intense fisting scene I've ever heard of, movie, book, porn, or otherwise, had such a powerful conclusion. So They All Died Screaming, really, really solid, and really interesting reason that all of those events took place.
All right.
And really intense fisting scene. Okay. I cannot emphasize the fisting scene's wild.
What's interesting about that to me is just from my personal perspective, and you know, whatever your thing is your thing. No judgments or shade. But I think all fisting is extreme.
Fair. Fair.
It seems like again, no shade on anybody, but JD is definitely not a pain sex person.
Oh, you should not watch read parts of this.
Oh, I don't have a problem with it like as a part of things that I'm watching. I'm just really not interested in doing it.
Fair. The next one, The Television by Edward Lee. This one, if it was made into a movie, it would purely be one of those like, oh, they did all this stuff just for shock value, and like the story's very like blah, and they just wanted an excuse to do these scenes. But reading in a book somehow worked a lot better for me. It's about a man who inherits a trailer house in the UK from an uncle who he's never met, and it's a regular trailer house, but in the back is a TV that is not plugged into the wall, cannot figure out how it works, and it just broadcasts terrible things spontaneously. The scenes that it shows this man are fucking crazy. And then where these scenes originate from, also crazy. Once you realize, like, how is this being transmitted and why, like, wild. There's an element to this that really works that I don't want to say because I feel like it would give away some of the why this is happening, and it's better if you go in. But if you're like, I don't like this at all and I don't understand how Michelle did, but I read it, then we can talk about it. I just don't want to spoil something. I think there's a very important element to why this book worked for me. It's also pretty well written for being a kind of just fucked up book. However, it ends so abruptly, and I was reading this one electronically. So it tells me how many pages in the bottom corner I have left, and it's like 7 pages left, and a thing happens, and I go, is there a glitch with my downloaded ebook? And I kept reading, and no, that's just how it ends. And I'm like, did the author have a deadline to meet and they just stopped caring about any of this story? There are a lot of loose ends. It's on par with reading a book that's really intense, and then they're like, but it was all just a dream. And then it just ends. Like, it was the equivalent of that, where I'm just like, nothing. No.
It was like the disappointing sex of novels.
Yes, it was the most disappointing sex of novels. And there's some disappointing sex in this book already. It's kind of like none of the book mattered. And the author was just like, meh, I'm done writing now. Like, anything could have happened in the beginning of this book, and they could have ended it this way because nothing matters. And that is my biggest complaint, is I was like, you had so many things started, and it's okay if you were just done typing up the most fucked up things that humans can do to one another. That's fine. But, like, what about this character who was kind of there and then wasn't there? And what about this thing in the garden that was located? And was it for this purpose? Because that doesn't seem like it really had an impact. I expected that to come back around and matter a little bit more. But it didn't. So that's my complaint. It was a book I was enjoying so much that I was mad that it ended in the way it did.
That's an interesting thing that I think you see with a lot of extreme horror in movies as well, at least the stuff that I've seen. It almost feels like, and again, no judgments, no shade, but it almost feels like people who are making some of these movies are almost doing like that little bit of character development or early story building just to try and justify getting to all this torturous stuff, which is what they really want to write. And I kind of feel like if we just dropped the farce and it was just like, look, if you just want to write a bunch of torture porn scenes, frankly, I'm sure there are plenty of people who would be open to reading that as well. Just like I almost have more respect for stuff, or not respect is the wrong word, but in a way I'm able to enjoy more the stuff that doesn't try to have anything to say at all. You know, it's just like, okay, we're just going to be fucking sick for a little while here. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Extreme stuff is so weird to me in that sense.
You're actually hitting on something that does better emphasize why the television's ending was so upsetting to me. Because it wasn't just horrific things for the sake of horrificness. Partially a little bit, yes. Like, he could have toned it down if he wanted to, but fuck it. No, it was actually really disturbing, and there's a reason that this stuff was happening. And then there was this very intricate storyline, because alongside the main character of this book, he's trying to figure out what the fuck's happening. We as the reader don't know. So as he's discovering things, we're discovering things, and it's actually really interesting of him trying to piece together, why the fuck does this TV show me these types of things? And so all of that, like, it wasn't just like shock value of like a man sitting in front of a TV and then he's watching something crazy and he's probably jerking off, because those kind of things happen, you know? And it's not just that, and then there's no substance. There's so much substance outside the fucked up stuff, and then I just don't think he knew how to end it. And that's such a bummer. I do plan on reading more from Edward Lee, because I was also surprised by how well written this was. Because, again, I'm coming from a world of extreme horror movies where those are very rarely actually good. They're just to get us those scenes. So when I come across something in a book that does have more substance, I want more. But, like, dude, you should have ended it differently. Like, you built up so much. Ugh, yeah. Anyway, I do recommend it. I'm going to be upset about the ending until the day I die.
Well, and that's the thing, as I think obviously it's common for a lot of people, but it's always especially a big deal for me because of my personal attachment to narrative. There are so many things I've seen and so many things I've read that I was totally on board with, completely engrossed in, and in anywhere from the last 2 to 5, 10 minutes, it will just completely lose me. And so that's a bummer when that happens, but that's part of the game.
Yeah, we see it a lot with movies where I even mentioned it earlier in this episode how I was loving Until Dawn and then the ending didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time, and I'm not saying I could do better. I'm just like, God damn it, why? Why? Right. I could have accepted any other ending.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Like, even then a rocket ship hit the house and they all died. Like, that would have been more exciting than what they went with.
As ways to die go, your house getting hit by a rocket ship would be pretty cool.
I really hope that when I die, it is something really cool and creative like that.
Sweet.
If I just die in my sleep, like, yeah, maybe that would be better for me, but would it be better for all my friends as opposed to knowing, like, having a really cool story of, like, oh yeah, Michelle Roller, we really liked her. She died when her house got hit by a rocket ship. Luckily, her husband and all her pets were fine, and she had home insurance and life insurance, so her husband didn't suffer anything except the loss of a very talkative, overwhelming woman, and he'll definitely be fine. But she died in, like, a really cool way.
That was functioning on several layers that I was not expecting, Michelle.
Yeah, I have therapy at 9 a.m. It'll be fine.
Did you miss last week?
I only do it once a month.
Oh, okay.
So, because I'm perfectly normal most of the time.
I was gonna say, you sure that's the best schedule?
Yeah. We'll see. I was doing weekly, and I was running out of things to talk about outside of horror movies.
That's fair.
Yeah. Speaking of running out of things to talk about, that's what I got. That's what I got from the Michelle
We made
review.
it to another Michelle in review.
Yeah, lots of things that had a lot of different substance that I really wanted to go over, and I'm glad that we could. And I will have some more books to talk about this upcoming month because I've been reading some stuff.
Okay. Reading stuff. I was just looking around because I was curious to see if there was perhaps an audiobook version of that book, Cows. There is not. At least not one that I can find. But I do. Nope. That's something that I find myself wondering right away when I hear people talk about this stuff. Is I'm like, I wonder if they've managed to convince anybody to be willing to read this stuff out loud. But maybe that's something I should do. I could do that. Like I could stomach my way through that. Maybe I should be the guy who reads audiobooks of disgusting, violent, extreme, repulsive horror novels.
They All Died Screaming was an audiobook, and that's how I did that one.
Oh my god. Okay,
so there's a market for it. I don't think The Television by Edward Lee was an audiobook.
I may have to check that out, because that's the idea is like somebody's job today was to go to work.
Oh my god, The Television totally is also an audiobook on
my
Audible.
God,
I did not expect that. That one surprises
hilarious.
me.
Oh my, I'm going to have to check
How
that
long?
out.
6 hours, 59 minutes.
I got a couple of Audible credits. I listen to, it's the one thing, I listen to Audible as much as possible when I walk the dog. It's either Audible or podcasts. So
Same. Out of those two, They All Died Screaming. Start with that one, because I think the ending having such an important quote unquote meaning, and there being like additional stuff
they're actually
going on
trying to
say
something.
Exactly. They were definitely saying something with how they ended that, and I think that's why it stuck with me so much. And again, intense fisting scene.
I think for me, what it is I would ultimately rather that if you're gonna do that, you have some significant reason to do it. But I also personally feel that most of the stuff I have seen that tries to do that, unfortunately, falls short for me. And in that case, like, if it's not gonna make it, I would rather it just be mindless violence, right? Like, so, like, for me, because, like, a Serbian film doesn't work, I would much rather something like, I don't care for this as a specific example, but of the kind of thing, but like a Guinea Pig, Flower, Flesh, and Blood, that hour-long one where it's basically just a dude chopping a body up. You know, that sort of stuff. I would almost rather that if you're not actually gonna make it. I'll tell you this much: when you do make it, it can be pretty. There's one on Tubi that I've talked about a couple of times. It's called No Reason. It is not for the faint of heart. It is fucked up, but it's one that's come closest for me, at least, to feeling like it at least got close to having something meaningful to say.
I need to rewatch that because with the way that you and our friend Nate Tannick talked about it, I think I missed something with it.
Oh, it's just fucking grotesque.
Yeah, like the grotesquerie got me. The meaning behind it didn't hit as hard, and I think I want to revisit it and just see if, like, did I just care less because it was in German?
Entirely possible.
Definitely possible.
You know, Germans love David Hasselhoff.
Is there a joke there?
You know what? I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Those who know will know.
Okay.
Those who don't, and you can Google it if you want to. But yes, Germans love David Hasselhoff.
Okay. I'm making a note to check that out later.
Michelle, I can hear you typing the note to yourself to check it out later. Why didn't you just type it into Google?
I did type it into Google, and now I'm bookmarking the results so that I don't distract myself during this conversation. And I don't just doze off and start reading something and not pay attention, JD.
Germans love David Hasselhoff.
Good. I found an article, Why Germany Loves David Hasselhoff. I have added it to my reading list, and I will check it out.
Oh, no, that's not what you're looking for, Michelle.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me offline, I guess.
I would say do this. Go to YouTube and search for Germans love David Hasselhoff. But that's enough. Everybody else can do that.
Norm Macdonald.
Yes, it's a Norm Macdonald weekend update thing. He used to do that.
I found it.
He used to do that all the time, just randomly inserting Germans love David Hasselhoff. Right alongside how he also used to randomly insert jokes about how O.J. Simpson, everybody knows he actually did kill his wife and his wife's, or his ex-wife and her boyfriend. And that's the shit that got him eventually pulled off the show, is because he refused to stop insisting that O.J. Simpson was a murderer.
That is great.
Norm Macdonald there was never anybody like him, and there never will be again. Possibly my very favorite comedian of all time.
My favorite comedian is myself.
Oh, I see what you did there. You got anything else to allow today, Michelle, for the review?
No, it is 1:54 a.m. I have to take my math final in the morning. Yeah. I'm going to not do well.
We have officially hit 3 hours of recording tonight with this one and the previous one. Let's call it a wrap. I'll get them edited and thrown up for everybody. And then you go get some sleep, okay? Good night, Michelle.
Yeah. Good night, Michelle.